Hello and welcome to Rule of Three's video review for The Evil Within, a survival horror game from Tango Gamesworks and Bethesda Software. So this is, I believe, Shin Mikami's first game since Resident Evil 4, which I hold to be probably one of the best modern survival horror games to date. This is a new IP from his new studio and is a very solid, old school survival horror, and pretty much the closest thing to like a spiritual successor to Resident Evil 4 we have gotten so far, and is a really good game.
Sebastian?
So the story of The Evil Within is you play as Sebastian Castellanos, a detective who is sent in with his partners, Julie and Joseph, to look into this big mass murder at a mental institution. You get there and you pretty much watch the rest of your fellow officers die, other than your partners, and then stuff gets weird. You're attacked by the main antagonist, Ruvik, and then transported, and you wake up in what seems to be like the worst possible location ever, and that's when the survival begins. On the whole, it's a decent story. It's, very kind of Resident Evil-esque in terms of quality. It's kind of a B movie in my opinion. Character-wise, Ruvik is very interesting. The more I find out about him, the more interested I am in his character. Joseph and Julie are kind of meh. There's another supporting character whose name escapes me at the moment, but he's a mental institution occupant, and he's kind of weird and interesting to try to figure out how he's involved in all this. And as for the main character, he's pretty boring. He really shows no emotion in terms of conversation, which is sad because, once again, the more you find out about his backstory as the game progresses, they could have done so much with him in terms of how he could have behaved, from the beginning, and finding out things through the game versus just kind of staying one-dimensional throughout the entire game. And that's really the weakest point of this game. Is really Sebastian's probably the most uninteresting protagonist they could have possibly gone with. But on the whole, the rest of the overall story is at least interesting. It's when you first play this, it will not make any sense, but the further you play, the more things start making sense, and you're able to kind of go, okay, this is what happened previously. It's a little bit disconjointed, which makes sense for the game's overall theme, as well as how the game actually turns, the story actually plays out. So gameplay is very similar to Resident Evil 4. So if you've never played Resident Evil 4, it's you're in third person. You can aim. It's an over-the-shoulder aim scheme, and you have to shoot enemies in their weak spots, which is usually there's very few enemies that don't have head weak spots in this game. I think all of them actually do. Anyway, the shooting mechanics are really solid. Everything plays really well. I do like how the accuracy in this works, because it really makes you have to take your time to get shots. You can't just keep shooting at something, which is something I would have complained about with Resident Evil 4. Was the aiming was really easy to do. This one is a little bit more panicky, in my opinion. The other thing is ammo. This game, ammo is very, very scarce. You need to make sure every bullet counts. You have to weigh the options of attacking something and making sure that you have enough ammo for later parts when you're going to need said ammo. You have a melee attack. It really does nothing other than stumble them, so if they get too close, you can punch them and try to get a shot off. But it's not like Resident Evil 4, where if you knew the secret of shoot them in the knee, kick them down, slice with the knife. You can't do that in this game. You can shoot them in the knee and burn them, which is a mechanic I'll get to in a minute. But on the whole, melee is pretty much the most useless thing you could possibly do to an enemy. Back to the burning thing, you can burn bodies on the ground, which is a good idea if you don't know if that enemy is dead or alive, because some enemies will just lie there and you don't know. The downside to this is you also are limited on how many matches you get to burn bodies. You could also light bodies as traps to set other people on fire And fire is your best friend in this game. It will pretty much, it guarantees that the enemy will die, and is the only way to guarantee an enemy is dead, other than a headshot and its head exploding. So matches are very, very important. There's also a stealth mechanic to where you can sneak around and stealth execute, which also guarantees a kill. The payoff on this is you don't use any ammo, which is always a nice thing. The downside is it's kind of difficult to do, and if they notice you, they're going to come in full force at you, because the enemy AI is pretty relentless and will just keep attacking and coming at you. They will, seem like they're going slow, then all of a sudden they'll pick up speed and run at you and dodge you and make your life really hard to aim. Hell, because you can't aim properly on them and you panic. You also have grenades and stuff like that to, help you out. And it's really just using your environment to your max, which is the next thing, is the environment is filled with traps and other fun things that also want you dead. You can dismantle certain wire traps as well as bombs. However, there's a risk reward with bombs. Well, you do get more crafting items, which I'll talk about the crafting in a minute. You do get more crafting from dismantling bombs. If you fail to do it, it blows up in your face, and you take massive amounts of damage. Tripwires you can just take out. It's as long as you do get close, you can disarm it without having to worry about anything. But bombs, you got to make sure that you're able to do that pretty reliably. Otherwise, it will blow up and you will take damage. You can sneak around bombs so they don't come out, but if you run by them, they will blow up in your face, and it's not fun. Wire traps, once again, if you hit the wire trap, usually it'll set off some type of trap, usually another explosive. There are a couple that, have a swinging gate kind of deal. Crafting, like I said, if you dismantle bombs, find little parts in the environment as well as wire traps, you get parts that you can make crossbow bolts for your crossbow. The crossbow is very important because it can do various things, like freeze enemies, set fire areas, explode, blind, poison. There's a couple of uses for it. It is, once again, a nice ammo saver if you're low on bullets, because they do a little bit more damage. And it's always good to have crossbow bolts with you and have enough of certain types to make sure that you don't run out of ammo, because certain crossbow bolts do cost more resources than others. Puzzles. There are a couple of puzzles in here, and most of them are usually, at least a good chunk of them seem to be, you have two choices. One is wrong, one is right. Use the environments to figure out which one is the right one to push, which is tricky because the clues are very well hidden, and you really have to be paying attention to either your surroundings or the story of what's going on with that puzzle in order to do it right, because if you choose wrong, you will die. Which brings that kind of horror. And even if when you're choosing it, if you pick it right or wrong, it always does this kind of dramatic, did you choose it right? Nothing will happen for a little bit, and then either nothing will happen or a door open or you'll die. And it's really fun. This game is definitely very much a very good old school survival horror games in terms of, gameplay mechanics and the overall feeling of, oh crap, I'm going to run out of ammo and die. The Evil Within is probably one of the greatest survival horror games that come out in recent history, other than Alien Isolation, but this is a little bit different than Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation I would consider more of while it is survival horror, has a little bit more of a hiding, relies on you hiding. This game is surviving a little bit more and using the environment to your advantage to take down enemies. Like I said, the characters are fine. Like I said, other than Sebastian's a little dry. The story overall is pretty good. Gameplay mechanics, I think, are perfect for survival horror. And Shinji Mikami has proven that he knows how to make a very good survival horror game and shows what Resident Evil should be doing and not making action games and ruining that series. Although they do make decent action games. But still, I do prefer the old school survival horror Resident Evil. And Evil Within proves that those games still work and are still, fun to play. I'm giving Evil Within a buy rating. And that's it for this review. Coming out soon should be the Borderlands pre-sequel review. I'm working on getting through as much of that game as possible, as well as working on the video portion. Make sure to check out the website Rule of 3 for all the news updates and podcasts and other fun things I try to post on the site on at least a semi-daily basis. Like us on Facebook and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel, obviously. Like us. Leave some comments below with some criticisms of what I could do better, what you like about the videos, stuff like that. I don't care. I take all of it to heart as long as you're not being a jerk and leaving, insults. And that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. And always remember to trust in the rule of 3.